More than 2,000 ADF members and veterans have trusted me with the biggest financial decisions of their lives. Not because of my qualifications, but because I've made every single one of those decisions myself, under huge amounts of pressure whilst mapping out a plan for me and my family's financial future. Most financial advisors will sit across from a veteran and hand them the same generic playbook that they give every other client. But the reality is military super, TVA elections, and the financial machinery behind a medical discharge require a completely different approach that civilian planners fundamentally misunderstand. They don't get it. At National Service Financial, we don't just talk the talk. My name is Wayne Bennett, and I'm the founder of NSF. I spent 20 plus years in uniform. I've walked in the path of a veteran and helped thousands of veterans set themselves up financially for life, during and after service. Today, I'm going to take you through the exact journey I lived, show you every stage where veterans get it wrong, and give you the roadmap that changes everything, starting with the day my own plan fell apart, if I even did have a plan. Since launching NSF, I've sat down with more than 2,000 ADF members and veterans and helped them find their footing during service and long after it as well. And almost every one of them came to me at the same crossroads I once stood at myself, a transition, decisions worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and nobody beside them who truly understood the ground under their feet. Because here's the trap. Walk into most financial firms and you're treated like any other corporate client, civilian. Same products, same scripts, same boxes ticked. But your super isn't their super. Your entitlements aren't on their radar. And the day your career ends the way mine did, not on your terms, none of their playbook fits. I know it because I lived it. 20 years in the Navy, which I loved, a medical discharge I never saw coming, which I did not love, and every hard stage that follows that one, pension decisions, military super, tax traps, rebuilding a plan from nothing. I walked every step of that road myself long before I ever walked it with anyone else. So I'm not going to hand you a checklist today. What I'm going to do is actually take you through the journey I lived and show you why we do the way we do it for this veteran community is completely different, starting with the day my plan fell apart. You know, everyone in uniform builds their financial life around the same quiet assumption that you'll choose when you leave. 20 years, maybe more, a clean handover, a pension, a plan you've been picturing for half your life, I guess. Mine didn't go like that. I was medically discharged, a set of circumstances out of my control, and suddenly the exit that I built 2 decades working around, it was gone. It was replaced by a version that I had no map for. And that's the part I need you to hear. Whether you're 2 years in or 1 year out from your pension, a huge number of transitions I now help with aren't the planned ones. They're the sudden ones, the injury, the MEC review board, the decision that gets made for you. The machinery behind a med separation is a completely different animal. We've got invalidity benefits, tax treatment all of its own, means testing that doesn't behave that the way you probably assume. But in that moment, the numbers weren't even the hardest part for me. The hardest part was staring at a financial plan that had quietly been built around a future that wasn't coming for me anymore. So the first thing I'd say to anyone still serving is simple. Don't build your whole financial life around the clean exit. Build it so it survives the exit that you don't get to choose. Because I hadn't, and I had to learn everything that came next the hard way, starting with the very first place I turned for help. I guess I did what you were supposed to do. I went and got professional advice. Everyone said, go see a planner. So I did, and I sat across from the smart, well-meaning people who had no real idea what I was talking about. I'd mentioned my scheme, my entitlements, the decision DVA put in front of me, and I watched them nod politely and reach for the only tools they had, civilian ones. Retail super, generic strategies, answers built for someone whose career and whose exit looked nothing like mine. It wasn't that they were bad at their jobs. It's not their fault. It's that they never lived a single day in the life of the person that I guess the advice was meant for. And when you're already raw, you're grieving a career, you're unsure who you even are without the uniform, being handed a generic piece of advice by someone who doesn't get it, it misses the mark. It makes you shut down and you stop asking questions. You nod, you leave, and you end up making the biggest decisions of your life alone. And look, that's when it clicked for me. For a veteran, shared experience, it's not a bonus feature, I guess. It's the thing that lets you actually speak freely to say, I don't understand this, or honestly, I'm not okay, without having to translate your whole world first. So if you take one practical thing from this video, take this. When you go looking for help with your military money, don't only ask someone what someone knows. Ask whether they've stood where you're standing. It will matter more than any certificate on the wall. Because for me, this terrain was never theory. I had to cross every inch of it by myself, and I had to scramble pretty hard. And scramble I did, one stage at a time, each one arriving before I'd really finished with the last, and everyone had a little bit of a hidden trap that I only understood because I was walking straight into it. There was the compensation and the pension side, the DVA decisions, weighing a lump sum against payments for life, choices that lock in and can't be reversed, with offsets that can quietly drag an offer down toward nothing if you don't know what you're actually owed or even what you're looking at. There was military super, working out what my benefit really was, how it was invested, what was defined and what wasn't, and how a single setting I'd never looked at could shape the rest of my life. There was the tax, learning the hard way that a medical pension doesn't get treated like an ordinary income stream, and that some veterans are owed money that they don't even know exists. I won't drown you in the mechanics of each one today because the mechanics aren't the point. The point is that I didn't read about these strategies in textbook. I made these decisions by myself under pressure, and I came out the other side knowing exactly where every pothole sits. That's what living proof actually means. Not that I've got all the answers on a slide. It means that when you're sitting across where I once sat, I've already walked the road ahead of you, and I can see the turn coming before you do. And if you're watching this thinking, one of those stages is coming for you, whether it be a MEC review board, a discharge, a DVA election, or even a super decision you've been putting off for a while, this is the exact moment not to walk it alone. That's the whole reason National Service Financial exists, sitting beside veterans through these specific decisions before they're locked in. That's what we do. So if you want a second set of eyes from people who've actually made these calls themselves, there's a link in the description to book a free, no pressure call with me or one of my team. Have a look at it after this. But stay with me, because seeing the road ahead was only ever half the battle. What actually put me back on my feet came down to one thing. Here's what nobody tells you about coming out the far side of a hard transition. The relief doesn't come from a product. It doesn't come from picking the perfect fund or even a clever tax move. It comes from finally having a roadmap. For me, the turning point wasn't a number in account. It was the day I could look at the whole picture, the pension, the super, the tax, the years ahead, laid out in an order that finally made sense to me and think, okay, I think I know what happens next. And that's the piece the industry has backwards, in my opinion. Most of it's built to sell you something, a product, a switch, a transaction, and some plan that you might not even understand. Even if you get one at all, it's an afterthought. We do it the other way around. The roadmap comes first, always. The strategies, the products, the moves, those are just the tools that serve the plan. They are never the point. That order matters more than any single dollar figure, because a plan is the thing that lets you breathe again. It turns 100 frightening unknowns into a sequence of manageable steps. It's the difference between lying awake and doing the sums at 2 a.m. like I did, and actually being present with your family where they need you. So before you let anyone sell you anything, get your roadmap. If someone's reaching for a product before they understand your whole picture and where you want to go, you're in the wrong room. And there's a reason we can build that plan with veterans when so many firms can't. It comes down to something that has nothing to do with money at all. What we've worked really hard with NSF is to create a safe space. That's the reason any of this works. When a veteran sits down with us, they're not walking into a sales meeting. They're sitting with people who've worn the uniform, who know what a posting cycle or deployment can do to a family, and who understand why just tell me the number just doesn't cut it when your whole identity has just been rewritten. There's no translating, there's no performing, there's no pretending you've got it all together. You're free to be yourself. And that safety isn't a soft option. It's the practical foundation for every good financial decision that comes after it. Because people don't make sound long-term choices when they're guarded, embarrassed, or rushed. They make them when they trust the person across the table enough to say the hard, honest things. I'm frightened about money, or I don't actually understand my own super, or I'm not coping. That's where the real work begins. And that's why for us, the process will always trump the dollars. Get the trust right, and the plan gets built honestly and fairly. And get the plan right, and the money finally has somewhere to go. It flows in that order, never the reverse. Now, more than 2,000 members and their families have now sat in that space with us, not because we chase the flashy returns, but because often for the first time, someone in the room actually spoke their language. So that's really the whole story and the whole difference. I didn't build this firm off a business plan. I built it off my own worst year, a discharge I didn't choose, advice that didn't fit, and the long climb back to a plan that finally made sense. Everything we do now is just making sure that the next veteran doesn't have to make that climb alone. Now, if you're serving or you're facing transition, planned or not, please hear this. You don't have to figure the money out by yourself. And you certainly don't have to explain your life to someone who's never lived it. Everything I've shared today is general information only. It isn't personal financial advice, and your situation deserves advice built around it. So speak to someone about your own circumstances before you act on any of it. But if you want to sit down with a team that's generally walked this road, there's a link below to book a free discovery call. No products, no pressure, just a conversation in a room where you don't have to translate and you feel comfortable. And look, if you want to hear exactly how I navigated my own medical discharge, the decisions, the mistakes, and the one thing I'd do differently, that story's in the video right here. Drop your questions in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.